Douglas Holtz-Eakin, American Action Forum President and former Congressional Budget Office Director, and Jason Furman, Harvard Kennedy School Professor, former Council of Economics Advisors Chairman. God, I wish I could. I think you're conflicted, Jason. I'm trying to figure out where you're going to come down on these things, and knowing you as I do, I feel sorry for you, because this is tough for you to pick between a Bloomberg and a Bernie, and since I feel your inner conflict, I don't know how to address your feelings on this. What do you think of Bernie Sanders, Jason? I mean, you're a smart guy. I mean, you don't want to do any of these things he wants to do you?
Well, I heard Andrew say his plan would raise $50 trillion. I don't think he was taking into account the impact it would have on the economy. After that, I think he would be lucky to get an extra $5 trillion from his plan.
See, you're not disappointing me. That's what I would think. How about Bloomberg? Are you okay with a billionaire buying the election? It's a loaded question.
Look, I look at his plans. I like the proposals he's making. You know, I personally, not a fan of President Trump, would like to see who could beat President Trump, would like to see who could have a sensible set of economic policies. I think Bloomberg is one of the people that, you know, might meet both of those criteria.
All right, Doug, what about Bloomberg's plan itself? Anything there that would make things even better than they are today in the economy, or would we go the other way?
No. I mean, everything on the Democratic side is headed south as far as I'm concerned. There isn't one good plan out there. This is you know, lots of regulation, lots of big taxes, lots of big spending. It's not going to do any good for the economy.
So nothing on the Democratic side of things is worth anything at this point.
No, I don't think so. I mean, honestly, these are not plans for economic growth. These are plans for government growth. They're about government programs always, and they're about redistribution, and they're not about the kinds of things that have relied on the private market and innovation and success. And so I find it very dispiriting. I mean, this is not an election that looks like it's going to have a good, solid policy core in it.
Jason, that comes back to how we got here, and there's been a big controversy this week, and I'm loath to bring it up because I think it's just ludicrous, but do you think some of the economic success we're having right now can be traced back to that $800 billion cash for clunkers, not shovel-ready boondoggle? I mean, is that really why we have these historic lows in unemployment? Can you connect any dots from that to where we are here today? I bet you can.
You know, I think about 80% of the years in the last century, the unemployment rate was lower than the last year. That's happened in the last 2 years. You know, Joe, you were talking about 3% growth. This last year we got 2.3. The year before that we got 2.5. So, you know,
what happened
told me what was going to happen. You told me what was going to happen.
2.9, but you did it a different way, I think, and actually got above 3. You were the guy who wanted right. You wanted Q4 over Q4 until those numbers got revised, and then you changed back to the annual average. I wanted whatever is best for the country.
The numbers have been made up.
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly. So you set a standard. You know, the only thing that was really strong in 2019 was the federal spending increase. That was the largest federal spending increase of the recovery. Investment growth, excluding oil and gas, was the slowest of the recovery. So I don't think this is looking a lot like an investment-fueled economic boom.
We did pay a little forward with
okay growth with a lot of government spending.
All right, yeah. You keep telling
it's the truth.
Keep telling the voters that things suck. That'll work.
I'm not saying they suck.
I didn't say they suck. I didn't say they suck.
They're not as
I just said the miracle you promised us, Joe, hasn't showed up.
Look, when you pay it forward and you deal with 30 years of a renegade China in terms of trade policy, and you pay it forward by dealing with some of those issues. There were some headwinds, but I think this was a time to do
moving the goalposts, Joe. The goalposts are just like moving constantly.
Okay. Doug, are things pretty good? The stock market's at highs, historic lows in unemployment, wages are rising. Anything to be, these Democrats going to run against the economy?
No, they're not, and they don't really. If you listen to those debates, there's not an attack on Trump's economic policies. They know that they're by and large been very successful. People are happy with where we are. They're on his conduct in the office. They're on his character. You know, it's not about how the economy's doing. Not really. They're not going to run on that.
Jason, I would even go as far to say that, you know, to get to, when you're at 12% or 10% unemployment, those first 3, 4, 5 points, you can do Obamacare, you can do redistribution, you can ramp up regulations, and it's going to happen because the economy recovers. But there wasn't a single pro-growth policy really to point to during the Obama's 8 years, right? So how do you possibly attribute any of the economic successes now? Which program? Cash for Clunkers? Which one? Give me one that was pro-growth.
One that was pro-growth? I think the Affordable Care Act helped. The Affordable Care Act helped stop people from being locked into their jobs, enable them to take more risks. Oh, if you want to have entrepreneurship, you want to have people be able to move from job to job.
Not have an economy. Wait a minute, Jason. No.
Look what's
we had
happened
years
to
with a
the
higher
slower
growth rate under
costs.
Obama than we have under Trump. So what kind of debate are we having here?
The average of 8 years.
But I'm happy to look forward. I'm happy to look forward. I don't see how you're going to have stronger growth in this country without more investment in science, more investment in infrastructure. I think we're doing perfectly fine now. I think we can do a whole lot better, and a whole lot better on a more sustainable basis if we make the types of investments that a lot of the Democratic candidates are calling for.
I mean, it's a Rorschach test.
Can we just establish a few facts here? Can we just establish a few facts? It is a fact that the economy accelerated under President Trump. It hit a low of year-over-year growth of 1.3% in the second quarter of 2016, and it grew faster every quarter, year over year, till the second quarter of 2018. That was less regulation. That was tax cuts and tax reforms.
Sugar high.
There was some government spending in there. Hang on. There was some government spending in there. And then, exactly at the peak growth, when it was going at 3.1% year over year, he went after China with a big trade war. And it has decelerated since. But the idea that nothing has changed is wrong. It changed dramatically. And he then stepped on it with the trade war. There's no question about that. Going forward, the issue is, what will be the trade policy? Will he get some results for what he did, or we continue to shoot ourselves in the foot? That's the big issue. The rest worked. There's no doubt about it.
One of the biggest problems that we've had here is that there hasn't been a lot of private investment. I don't know what the answer is to that from a policy perspective.
There was a lot of private investment.
But I still think there isn't enough.
I'd do another round of business tax reform
to actually drive growth from a private perspective.
Cash for Clunkers too, Jason. Was that your idea? Let's get that. I still think that's why we're here.
I don't remember very well, but why don't you ask Austin? I'm sure it was his.
Oh, I know. He's coming on later. I know. It's like I get done with this, and then Goldsby's going to be here.
Tell him I gave him the credit. Tell him I said he was a great guy.
You know what? I keep hitting my head against the wall, and then when I stop, it feels awesome. Anyway, thank you, Furman. And Douglas Holtz-Eakin, thank you. You stepped up today. Furman's tough. Furman is tough. He
has facts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah.
The truth on my side.
Yeah. Alternative facts.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
And we wanted